have her as a member of the choir.
How many years? 2 years?
Many months. She not only put together a wonderful event where everybody went down to the Valley de Frank and cleaned it and cleansed it. And she brings food. We love that about her too. But most of all, that she is here, takes her time and energy to show up, be here every Sunday. We really appreciate that. Please welcome Chris Brown.
Yay!
This is definitely the place to be.
Thank you.
And food-wise, gluten-free pasta, all aspects gluten-free. We check on the nice.
Watch out, there's water in there.
Oh. I discovered last week that I really don't like to be confined. So
No bondage for you, huh?
I'm speaking from here, although I'm going to use my nose. So, we shine. We shine. And the words that I like to use are divine radiance. That's where I take it the next step, is that all of us, each of us, each one of us is radiating our divinity. That's where I like to think I live, is radiating divinity and seeing the radiation of divinity of other people. I can't say that I do it 24 hours every day, but it's my goal, it's my desire, and it is my fallback. I find that when I get pushed and things aren't working, the place for me to go is to sit back and remember divine radiance. Because that's actually what's happening. So I asked Dottie, about 2 months ago, I sent her an email and I said, Dottie, this amazing thing happened to me and I want to talk about it. So what you're going to get is what I want to talk about.
Awesome.
And I will be taking you into what may be some uncomfortable places, but I promise we will not stay there. We will use it as an aspect of a journey, and we will come out the other side in wonderful divine radiance. So my topic today is awakening to community. And the essence of that, and why I like to use those words, is that community bees. Community is. It's here. It's just sometimes we forget, we don't see, we're not looking. Our filters are a kilter. I just made that up. Isn't that funny? So, community, and because I am wired for relationship, which can be interesting in a lot of ways, but I am wired for relationship, and so what that means is that I'm constantly pinging what's around me to understand my relationship with him, her, it, them. So community is extremely important to me, and I didn't always know that. A couple things I want to talk about are kind of like what it was like before and how it's different. And I want to start just this morning on the drive-in. I don't know how many of you heard this. Julian Bond died last night. And given my talk, Awakening to Community, I went, holy cow, there it is. Julian Bond is an African-American, one of the early people. He founded SNCC, and he was with the Southern Poverty Law Center and the NAACP and some other things like that. And Carolyn, you and I share a birth year, so we're doing really well. And Corky we're not even going to talk about, but a lot of us.
Thank you.
A lot of us here were around and listening in the 60s and the 70s and stuff like that. So Julian Bond, I went, well, I know that guy, and I realized that he is part of my community. And I went, it's kind of like math for me, there's an algorithm. Do I have a relationship? Does it matter to me? Yes, it mattered to me. It mattered to me that I remembered him. It mattered to me that I acknowledged some things that he had done and how important he was when he was more prominent, and to honor him that he was passing from here to there. And so I was laughing about it because, yeah, community. Now that's an example of what I'm talking about awakening to community. And after I thought about Julian Bond, I thought, well, who else have I had that kind of relationship with? And what I can tell you is that the day that Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated, in my arena, we all became Jewish, and we all went to synagogue, because that was the thing to do, and because we were part of that community for that short while to honor whatever the words are for what you do in that situation, but to be there and to exchange energy around what was going on. So when I say community, community is not just only people we touch or just only people we email. To me, community is as big as it needs to be. And for those of you who track it, I just went way up. So, community bees. That's my message. And what I want to talk about today is a couple of experiences that I've had, one in depth. And my belief around, well, I'm really into self-awareness. Like, I think I'm the most interesting part of my life. And at the same time, self-disclosure. So I'm pretty transparent. Problem is I have so much to say that I try and, keep it down to a small level of information. So when I share what I'm going to share today about community, my goal is to put some thoughts out there that you will have your own revelation about. As I tell my story, whether you care, it doesn't matter to me if you care about my story, that's not what I'm here for. What I'm trying to do is to put some ideas out there and have you have your own journey while I'm talking. Go, oh, that reminds me of, or oh, I never thought about it that way. So I'm going to get relatively personal, like this is all about me. But I have an expectation that you guys will be able to take this information and do something with it and awaken to your own community. So I did have a first page, here we go. So I do have several communities that I'm part of even today. In the past, I worked for Robin Tyler, if any of the women here know Robin Tyler. Again, those of an age. And she organized music festivals on the West Coast and in Georgia, and I was head of parking in both those places. And so if you ever went to Yosemite or you went to Watt County on Lake Lanier, if you ever went there in the 80s and 90s, then you were probably parked by my crew. And I thought about that because I was trying to think, well, what are some of the communities I've been part of? And that was certainly one, and I did that for a while. And I'm going to reference 3 papers I've written. And because, I don't know, it just came to me that what I've written may be of use to some people. So I'm going to reference some 3 different stories I've written. And at some point at the end, if you want to get these, you can sign up and I'll send them on your email or something. So one of the things that happened to me in Yosemite was that we were in a forest fire. Yes. I was there. 106 women and children at the top of a mountain and fires burning all around. And I'm not going to pursue that train of thought at the moment, but I just yeah, that was a community. I mean, we already were, but boy, did we become more of a community. So I have some things to say about that if y'all are interested in that. I'm also a long time 12-step member. And so there's a lot of community in that, and there's a lot of, if you know about it, a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but you know, it's all about coming back up again. But in my worldview, it's important to me to go down in the deep places so that I can understand and heal them and come back. And to do that within the community of the 12-step environment, we have people who template how to do it, show, support, love, and show us how to love ourselves even when we don't feel able to do it ourselves. So that's another aspect of community for me. And the story I have available for that, if anybody's interested, is a 6-step story, which is like whoever writes about the 6th step. So if anybody's interested, I have one I wrote in the Himalayas.
Can you tell us what the 6th step is?
It became, where are we, 4th, 5th? Became entirely willing to have God remove our defects of character. I'm sorry, I should have indicated what it is. And the reason it's tricky is because how long does it take to become entirely willing, and what is the process, and is it a split second or is it 50 years? And it's both.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, if people would like to hear more about that, feel free to tell me and I'll send it to you. And there was another community that I was part of, and that was the Center for Living with Dying. I lost my best friend over the course of a year and a half. And that's when I met Janet. And so if that's of interest to anyone, the stories about what it's like to go through the grief process before and after losing somebody, and how the center helped. So those are some ideas of some of the communities that are more specified. What I want to do now is I want to tell you about my epiphany it was probably like June 1 or May 31st of this year. So hang on a second. So this is a piece of technology, and it's called a shield. And the technology, I'm just going to stick it right here somehow. The way that the technology is used is that one determines, through one form or another, one determines one's intention, and then one depicts that intention on the shield. And that's a process of anywhere from a day to 6 months or more to figure out what is it that needs to be depicted for this intention. And then during a ceremony in a charged container, we interact specifically with this piece of technology. And what that looks like is fasting, dry fasting, no water, no food from the night before, no water, no food, and 8 hours under the sun, dancing back and forth between a forked stick with the shield and a giant oak tree. It's a replication of the Sundance ceremony, and if you want to know more, you can ask me about it. But my story is about what happened while I was doing this. So there's something called the Northern California Oak Dance Community, and I had been part of it 20 years ago because in my role as parking chief across the U.S., my body worker said, I need someone to hold perimeter. Would you come do that? So about 20 years ago, I went and I did that, and I went, these guys are nuts, what are they doing? And I had a lot of disparaging ideas about them. It was good I was on the outside, I suspect, rather than being on the inside to pollute with my non-belief. But anyway, that is what happened. I was introduced to it. And then about, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, a friend of mine that I really respect said, you're doing a lot of work. You're doing so much work, your body cannot, your system can't tolerate all the work you're doing. If you don't have a way to move it, you must come to the dance. And so this sister in community was someone that I trusted enough that I completely let go of any judgments, and I said, because you told me I should go, I will go. Now that's not at all my general response, but when I remember at my higher levels, that's a good response for me. Because I trust you and I know you love me, I will do what you're suggesting I do without figuring it out. And so I went and I danced, and the next year I had spent several years being a registrar and orientation person, and I got into some positions of leadership. And last year, so in 2014, it was really extraordinary. I was in charge of the sweat fires. I wasn't there at the tree because the sweat fires are in a different place. And one of the things that I had to do was to figure out, how can I be part of this community when all these wonderful, wonderful things are, the drums are beating for 8 hours without stop. I mean, it's an amazing thing. How can I feel part of this community when I've been ostracized out here to the fires? And so what I had to do was to enlarge my sense of belonging. I had to make my relationship with what they were doing bigger and bigger until I could encompass a quarter mile away 80 people doing something that I had thought I would be doing and was asked not to do, and rather to create safe fire for them instead. And I could hear what I had to do, but it took me several months to be able to actually move my system, my personhood into, all right, this is going to be good for me. Because I was pissed. Well, this year, for my own benefit, they said no leadership at all. So then I was really pissed. No leadership, you're not on staff, you're going to be an independent dancer, that's all you get, because that's what's good for you. And I was angry. And I not only that, but they elevated my partner to chief.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was really hard. Anyway, so, and she didn't know anything. No, she, no. But it was interesting having the tables turned, because it usually goes the other way. Anyway, so kicking and screaming. I dragged myself, I had like 4 months to prepare, and I dragged myself into it, and I was blaming myself, like, what are all the things that I did wrong and make them pull me off staff, and then blame everybody else, because it really was their fault, and I dragged my feet, but I was willing, and you've probably heard to be willing to be willing. If you're not willing, can you at least be willing to be willing? And I went through that process, and I eventually said, okay, you know, I like leadership, but if I can't have it, I guess I'll go with what I got. So gritting my teeth, I went ahead and I attended, and I found other ways to be helpful. So what happened, though, was that as I was there with my shield, and by the way, the shield, what the shield has on it is the core of the earth. It has some boulders. It's got my sigil, which is my own personal sign. And it has me, it's in the forest, and it has me, what is it that Mickey Mouse does? Boom! You know, in that...
The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
The Sorcerer's Apprentice, it goes boom! So I'm kind of doing that, and I've got conjuring. I'm conjuring. I've got the 4th dimension, the 5th dimension, the 6th dimension, the 7th dimension, and actually the 8th, which is a conscious decision to stop at number 8. So I'm hitting. So what I had thought, well, my intention is I'm going to be able to conjure all 8 dimensions. Okay, here, watch me do it. I'm really proud of the painting, but that's what was behind it. So at any rate, because I was grumpy, I was participating, my feet were moving, I was walking to the tree and walking back to my shield and walking to the tree, and I just wasn't getting much out of it. So, after doing that for a while, I mean, I've got a lot of self-awareness, right? And I am pretty self-deprecating, so I can do this pretty easily. I went, okay, look. I looked at my shield and I said, oh, I see what I did, and I hope you all can see this. I see what I did. I painted myself, single, isolated, doing it all alone. I don't even know what I'm doing, and I'm trying to get it all done by myself. What was I thinking? I'm wrong, and worse, I did it to myself. Now that's familiar.
They have a 12-step for that.
Yes. Yeah. So I went into a very dark place. Now this is the dark place I was mentioning. We're going to come out. But I did go into a very dark place. And mostly I felt the separation and the self-condemnation. I amplified my own demons. I wallowed in bitterness and self-deprecation. And I made myself wrong. Well, of course no one could love me. And the good news is I went into deep, convulsing sobs of grief and loss. That is so wonderful. I hope you all get to that point. It's wonderful. And doing so, and what it meant was that I was no longer in charge. And that's a good thing. And so, so for me, and this is, you're wonderful, thank you. For me, my greatest strength is compassion. That and divine radiance on a good day. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Community. So, because I am a compassionate being, I could hang on to that. I go, well, I'm here and I know that I'm compassionate. And that's a good thing. And I'm going to start there because no one's going to tell me I'm not compassionate. No one in the world is ever going to say that about me. So I started with that. And by building on that, I am a compassionate being, which is a truth that I truly, truly know about myself and that I truly don't believe can be taken away. I was able to bounce off the bottom, come back up, begin the long crawl back upward to the light. And in doing so, I allowed my experience, what I had done before, my experiences of the past, and trust to carry me. And that to me is a really important statement. I have no idea if it's important to you, but I allowed my experience and my trust to carry me. I resurfaced, and here's the key word, and I awakened. And I took a second look. So now I'm going to talk about the shield again. To my own surprise, there were signs all around that, contrary to my initial belief, where I had thought I had painted myself into isolation, I had actually painted myself into community. Holy Toledo. Look, there's the earth, then there's rocks all around and they're meaningful to me, and look at all those trees. Look at every single individual leaf has been painted. It's full of community. And I didn't see it. And because it's so familiar to feel bad about myself, I took that road. This is what I'm talking about awakening to community. What's the chance that any situation that you're faced with on any day actually has a different lens, a different filter, a different way of seeing something that is not only already there, but actually came from you? I could stop talking now because I think that's the message, but that's what I mean, awakening to community. So I threw off the mantle of self-pity, laughed at myself for forgetting, and was filled with joy and self-appreciation and love for my learnings and for the community that supported me to get to them. I was able to drink in and fill myself up. And from that filled up place, to extend and radiate love and light to all, to embrace and open my heart in a truly divine and aligned way, to my community. That's the message, and I'm going to cry now, that's the message that I wanted to share with Dottie when I emailed her. I have something really amazing that I don't think. So, what I thought we could do, and I'm not sure what time you're going to end, maybe 20? Okay. What I thought we could do is, if there's anything that's stirred in you from what I've said, and I'm not saying that from me, but I'm thinking maybe there's some people who have some thoughts about community, would you like to just share them for a couple of minutes? I have another story at the end I'm going to share with you, but is there anybody who is moved to share publicly about some ideas about awakening to community? And stand up. Yeah.
I just wanted to recognize and thank people that this is a community thing. We noticed that Chris was thirsty, and there were 2 or 3, at least 4 people that I saw that were kind of getting up to go get water. And so
April beat us all.
April beat us all. But that's community. We're all together. We're all working together towards a common goal. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily sharing an experience, but based upon what Chris is saying, we're always part of community. We are part of a family of human. We are part of women. We are all part of community, always. And when we're alone and in our meditative times, we're still with our community. And when we're together with a whole bunch of people, we're still in community. Because our hearts and our souls are all linked and connected together in the oneness that we are.
I'm not really good about getting up in front of people.
Here, take the mic.
You do really well.
Okay. What Chris did was the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles is all about perception. And when she took with her shield and saw community as everything. And what I see the Course in Miracles as is we are one. And the I am. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, it's pretty much what she was talking about, the perceptual change. One of the things that I am so attached to this community is because you guys all do it. You guys all do it. You talk about, you come to Dottie anytime you think something is horrible, and she's going to find a way to show you how wonderful it is. That this is and so Dottie, and so is April, and so is Jan, and so is Corky, and so is everybody who's here. Yeah, totally. And the choir and everyone else. So it's one of the things that I have, exercise here. How can I look at this differently? And how wonderful this, I'm on the shadow. Oh, but that's, wonderful because now I'm not scorching by the sun. The wind has blown me away, but that's wonderful because now I get stronger when I push those branches again, when I grow those branches again. So it's again, looking for that perceptual change, the expansion of the consciousness, getting out of I am, this, that, the other, and that's all I am, and looking at ourselves with blinkers, because that's what you were doing, looking at yourself with blinkers. I know I'm an idiot, I know I don't do these things right, I know I da-da-da-da-da. And so we put those blinkers, and whatever you do, you're going to do it wrong. But you take the blinkers off and start to take in what's around you, and start to really expand that perception. And you are wonderful. We are wonderful. Each one of us is a miracle. And that's, what I have learned here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
I just want to mention that, I think it was 2 weeks ago when Carolyn was up front sharing her pain, and people went up and just surrounded her. And that's how I feel this place is. This is the community where I just feel surrounded, protected, and loved. And what other church are you going to have that experience in? I'm in my 60s now. I've never had that experience before of seeing a church just surround someone with the love and support that this community has. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie.
April, our last one.
Oh, I'm gonna be the last.
Oh,
Maybe our second
Okay.
and last one.
okay.
So I wanted to acknowledge
Penultimate.
how community expands me. The gift of somebody questioning what I do puts me in a position to then have to articulate what I do, which in my head I have real clear, but it's a practice. When somebody actually doesn't agree with me, it allows me, and I'm thinking of my family community when I'm speaking from that place, a lot of the negativity that I feel from them also allows me to kind of look at it and see the grain of truth in what they're saying, because there's always a little speck of truth, even in the most ferocious kind of offensive response from someone. And all those times I look at and go, wow, I would have never taken the time to consider where that truth was in me, or what that language was to explain what I do, if I hadn't been questioned in some way. So community doesn't just hold me in support. Community activates a response from me that makes me stronger and clearer.
Thank you. One of the things I don't think a lot of you realize is how many individuals we have here. Because looking around, we have people, as I said, who worship completely differently, who come from a different background, who speak a different language. And I was talking to a group and I was saying that we have a lot of different people, and the person said, why?
Why?
You know, we have people who've gone through horrible diseases, horrible accidents. We have people here who never felt welcome anywhere else. I had a gentleman one week say, Dottie's church is where you go when nobody else wants you. And I went, thank you. What a gift. Yes, we're an island of misfit. What are we, Sean?
Island of misfit toys.
An island of misfit toys. But brought into community, because knowing community is where we need to be. And this wouldn't work without each one of you. I could be standing here all by myself.
Not likely. But anyway.
Well, that's true. My mother once said she was surprised I went to the bathroom by myself. I have to have people around. But thank each one of you for making this a community. It wouldn't be without you. You too, my dear.
Thank you for leading it.
Yes.
Yes.
David, go ahead, and then
Yeah,
we'll wrap
I
up.
said this when I first came here, the first time I spoke here, that I never had this sense of community that I have here before, but that wasn't quite true. I did, but I never had it again after I left that place. It was just this place on the island of Maui, town on the North Shore, called Kihei. And it's very, very close-knit there, that community. And I was talking about, I felt like Kihei is like my family when I go there. And I've been away for years and years, decades now, but it's still hard to be away from them. And the whole town is like my family around there. It's like I come there and it's like, oh, you're home, my God. That's amazing. But it's in Hawaii, it's Ohana, family. And I have that here. I have all these brothers and sisters in here, and you guys step on myself.
So, in the spirit of family, I
I asked the choir if we could have a congregational sing. So we be the choir. And I want to make sure, does anybody not have one of these from
In your program.
If you open the program, they're here, and I have, if I could get Annie, would you mind passing out any they need? I just want to, while we're passing it out, I want to close with a thought.
Oh, that one for Betty, please.
So my closing thought is that certainly here, my community is my church. My church is one of my communities. And in an expansion of that thought, and we sort of sang about it earlier this morning, I am God, and we are God, and I am holy, and we are holy. May I ascribe to my community that which I ascribe to God. So Annie's gonna help me, because I only sing bass. We're gonna sing a song, and y'all have probably never heard it, but it's easy, and we're gonna have some fun, and I would love it if you would stand up when you sing.
Okay, here we go. Oh, it's up to you.
I don't want to be close to that. Okay. Are you ready? Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Repeat that. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you in my heart and soul, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Open the ears of my heart, Lord. Open the ears of my heart. I want to hear you. I love to hear you. Open the ears of my heart, Lord. Open the ears of my heart. I want to hear you. I love to hear you. To hear you in my heart and soul, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Open the arms of my heart, Lord. Open the arms of my heart. I want to greet you. I love to greet you. Open the arms of my heart, Lord. Open the arms of my heart. I want to greet you. I love to greet you. To greet you in my heart and soul, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. You are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. I love to see you. I love to hear you. I love to greet you. Holy, holy, holy. You are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. There's your check.